Hello, Hawkeye fans. This is Ben McCullum, the head coach of the Iowa men's basketball team. Returning to Iowa City as the head coach is a dream come true. The passion of Iowa fans is unmatched, and I'm incredibly excited to get started on this new journey together. I look forward to seeing our fans on campus across the state and throughout the nation. Here's to big things coming and an exciting future ahead. Go Hawks!
On the Hawkeye Sports Network from Learfield, this is the Fight for Iowa podcast. Here's the voice of the Hawkeyes, Gary Dolphin.
The three-day National Football League draft kicks off with the first round Thursday night at 8 o'clock from Lambeau Field in Green Bay. It's the annual rite of spring, where 32 teams look to make at least roster improvements and get to the playoffs, with the Super Bowl the eventual destination. The Tennessee Titans own the top pick, with the Cleveland Browns second to choose, followed by the New York Giants, New England Patriots, and Jacksonville. A number of recent Iowa Hawkeyes are confident their names will be called at some point. All-Americans running back Caleb Johnson, linebacker Jay Higgins, and safety Sebastian Castro are 3 of 7 or 8 Hawks expected to slot somewhere or at least sign free agent contracts. Tight end Luke Lachey, defensive tackle Y.A. Black, cornerback Jamari Harris, and guard Connor Colby are highly thought of. But by who? Offensive tackle Mason Richmond has come on strong. It's a time of nerves, worry, apprehension, and plenty of anxiety, all rolled into one package. When will that phone ring? Eric Steinbach left Iowa in 2002 as the Big Ten's Offensive Lineman of the Year and a consensus All-American. At 6'6" and a fast 295 pounds, Steinbach was projected as a foolproof, middle of the first round at the latest pick. Well, an hour later, Steinbach's name was called by the Cincinnati Bengals with the 3rd selection in the 2nd round. He didn't pout and sulk. After all, he only got 2 major Division I collegiate offers. Steinbach again turned disappointment into motivation, making pro football's all-rookie team. He was far from finished. Rock steady throughout his 4 years with the Bengals, Steinbach signed a free agent contract with the Cleveland Browns in 2007 for $50 million, at the time a record number for a guard. Steinbach starred for 6 more years before calling it a career when his knees and hands couldn't take the wear and tear anymore. Back now in his native Chicago, Eric Steinbach coaches his sons and follows the Iowa program closely. His advice to those Hawkeyes headed for an NFL home this weekend is, know you belong. The Iowa program is highly thought of from Foxborough to L.A., and regardless of where you're drafted or free agent signing, you got to earn it every day, like Steinbach had to when he reported Iowa City his freshman year as a lanky tight end.
You know, to be able to have Hayden Fry, the original legend, for a year and his character and his ways, and then, you know, me coming in as a tight end defensive end at Iowa, and then Kirk Ferentz, you know, kind of nudging me a little bit to switch, you know, from tight end to O-line, which ended up working out great, as you just mentioned, touched on with NFL, you know, career with the 9 years. But I was very fortunate to have the tutelage under Kirk Ferentz and Joe Philbin as, you know, the O-line coaches, and Kirk being very successful in the NFL level before he came to Iowa. So if you couple that with an individual's hard work and dedication and what they're willing to apply to the sport they're playing, you know, then you have a chance, you know. But there's always the other part of it about staying healthy and other things involved. But yeah, definitely leaving the college sport at University of Iowa and us kind of being an O-line university before we became tight end U, that helped me to be successful early on. Like, as soon as I got to Cincinnati, they threw me in right away as a start at left guard. And I think just knowing what Joe Philbin and Kirk Ferentz taught us for those 4 years at Iowa prior to the NFL really helped shape and mold my early success. And when I say that, because a lot of guys, the average is still 3.5 years in the NFL. So you better have your head on a swivel. They're always trying to replace you. You better stay healthy, because, you know, they say the best availability is durability, right? So there's a big bag of things for one to have a 10-year career, you know, in the NFL at any position. So, but definitely the footing, the foundation that I received at the University of Iowa was huge, monumental.
Let me throw in flexibility because, as you know better than most, when you come to Iowa, recruited as a tight end, you could have played. Well, you did play center, guard, could have played tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen so many great Hawkeye linemen go to the NFL with that kind of durability, flexibility, ad lib ability to play anywhere on the line. And Kirk's always been a big promoter of that, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you look at a lot of players that came out from underneath, Kirk's coaching with him and his staff. I think someone sent me something where in his 25 years, he's got close to 18 to 20, All-Americans that have left the University of Iowa and gone on to play in the NFL, which is just remarkable because we're not a 5-chip or a 5-star, Alabama, Georgia school, University of Iowa. We can hold our own in the Big Ten, but that just goes to show what, Kirk Ferentz's coaching style is like and how he can mold people and switch positions. You mentioned Dallas Clark. He came in as a linebacker, and then all of a sudden they kind of looked at him after a couple of years and let's try tight end. Brett Bielema and Hayden Fry recruited me as a defensive end out of high school. But once I saw that stand-up tight end, that Hayden Fry had, I said, I want to do that. So they're like, sure, because I think they knew what they're doing because they started in the 80s of recruiting big tight ends with footwork and putting some pounds on them and moving them to O-line. So that's how it worked for me. But I'd say one huge positive of Kirk Ferentz's philosophy is recruiting football players, athletes, and then seeing where they fit best, okay? Instead of pigeonholing a kid and say, you must be a receiver, you must play defensive end. He's done a great job over his tenure.
Yeah, I always loved Kirk's line. He said he always looked for team captains as one of his criteria because, number one, he knew they were academically in the ball game, obviously tremendous football players and guys that could play multiple positions like Eric Steinbach, like Dallas Clark, like Bob Sanders.
Hello, Iowa. Here's a promise. Wherever you are in this great state, University of Iowa Healthcare is here for you, even if you never walk through our doors. Educating, caring, leading research, sharing our expertise with all. Because we believe that UI Healthcare is here to make all of Iowa better. UI Healthcare, changing medicine, changing lives. Visit uihealthcare.org.
You might think Iowa grows corn, but the truth is, corn grows Iowa. Corn can even fuel your drive to watch the Hawkeyes play when you choose Unleaded 88. It's a fuel that's cheaper, cleaner, and greener. Plus, it's homegrown, making Unleaded 88 the clear choice at the pump and totally worth the hype. So as you head to cheer on the Hawkeyes this season, don't just fuel up. Pump it up with Unleaded 88. Find Unleaded 88 at a station near you. Go to iowacorn.org/88.
There's a new head Hawk in town. Ben McCullum is entering his first season as the Iowa men's basketball coach. McCullum is striving to continue his winning ways in Iowa City. Join us for the new era of Iowa basketball. Reserve your season tickets for the 2025-26 season today. Give us a call at 1-800-IA-HAWKS to learn more on Iowa Go Hawks.
The silly moments, the proud moments, even the hard moments. They're what make life remarkable. And they're why Wellmark Blue Cross and Blue Shield is here for every moment. Committed to making healthcare better, more affordable, with more choices for care. And service and coverage that give you peace of mind no matter what comes your way. So you can show up for every tender moment, every brave moment, and every wouldn't miss it for the world moment, knowing that Blue is here for you. Go to wellmark.com/every moment to find a plan right for you.
Something big is happening at Hy-Vee. We've just lowered thousands and thousands of prices on thousands and thousands of items in every aisle and in every department. Online, too. And on many of your favorite products, we've even matched prices with some of the biggest discount stores in the country. Because we get it, times are still tough. So we'll continue to work hard to bring you new lower prices on thousands of items. Things are looking different at Hy-Vee. Come see for yourself.
How about present day or recent Hawkeyes, Eric? I wanted to get your insight. Caleb Johnson, Jay Higgins, Sebastian Castro. There's 3 All-Americans right there. Luke Lachey, and the latest in a long line of outstanding guards at the University of Iowa, Connor Colby. who all have a shot now. They were all down at the NFL Combine and had their moments in separate workouts. You know, the draft can be a marathon. Eric Steinbach, you were projected as a first-round selection. You had to wait till round 2. What advice do you give these young men for draft day where patience is really the lead virtue?
Well, you just said it there because, the gurus back then, it was really just Mel Kiper. Now you got about 8 guys that are considered NFL draft experts, and everyone has you slotted. Correct. I was supposed to go that mid-first round. I was all excited, showed up to the ESPN zone in Chicago with about 150 people, thinking it's going to go early, get ready. And then we're sitting there, and we see I got one of my agents. I had 2. The assistant was kind of hosting me and my family that day, and you just seen pick go after pick. And that year was a lot of defensive linemen because the year prior, Gruden won it with the Buccaneers with Warren Sapp and Simeon Rice and, Derek Brooks. Like the defense won the Super Bowl, which most of the times it is. Nowadays, it's all passing. But it was nerve-wracking and it's stressful because you waited your whole life, especially if you dreamt of being an NFL player since you're young. That's almost a big stay your life unless you get married prior to getting drafted. So to me, that was it. And I had everyone right there. And, to go be slotted mid-round, first round to, 33rd, the first pick of the second. It was stressful, but it all worked out because my 4 years, I would never replace what, took place in Cincinnati and the memories and the teammates and being close. Family's a big part of it. So the fact that my family and friends were 4 hours away to come to 80% of the home games, in Cincinnati. If I was on the West Coast or East Coast, it would have been a lot different. I think having that, close, that small niche of family and friends around you to kind of keep you at bay was key. It worked out. But when you're told you're going to go a certain place, a certain pick or round, and it doesn't work out, I've heard the stories where guys were supposed to go day 1 and then they don't get picked to the end of day 2. Back in the day when that format was rounds 1, 2, 3, I think, on Saturday, and then 4 through 7 on Sunday. Now with the ratings and the spectacle of it all, it's Thursday night prime time into, I think, Friday, Saturday. So, but all in all, it worked out at the end.
It always works out. And you know what? If you go 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round, now's your chance to prove everybody wrong or prove a lot of guys wrong, correct?
And I think I had a little bit of that chip in me.
I know you did. Well, you always played that way, though. That's what I loved about you. And I went back through history. I'm a history buff. Calvin Jones won the Outland in the 50s. John Nyland was a great guard, tremendous career with the Dallas Cowboys, played in a couple Super Bowls. And this century, Steinbach, Brandon Sheriff, Marshall Yanda. I know I'm going to leave somebody out, but the point is the Hawkeye legacy at that guard position, no matter how you end up there, it really says a lot for the school, for Iowa's production and consistency, doesn't it?
Yes, of course. You named a few. I mean, we're going to have a future Hall of Famer in Marshall Yanda. Brandon Scherf has had a heck of a career in the NFL. Myself and Robert Gallery, we were able to play 9 years respectively with our teams. And I joke, like before it's tight end you, it was off O-line you, and it pays homage again to, how Kirk Ferentz can find the talent and then mold you into a player given your position.
Eric, you could have gone anywhere in the country coming out of Providence Catholic High School in New Lenox over in Chicago. 50-game winning streak, 4 consecutive state high school championships. And I had no idea on this. As a senior, you set the school record with 26 quarterback sacks. You were a demon on both sides of the line of scrimmage. But my question is, in the end, why Iowa? You mentioned Hayden, you mentioned Kirk, O-line you, and by the way, it's still that to a large degree.
Sure.
What sold you on Iowa? I'm sure close to home, the parents, the family could come out and see it, but what beyond that?
Well, I'll be totally transparent. Junior year, I was kind of a late bloomer. I had knee surgery, and then I kind of came on junior year for the playoffs and our 3rd state championship in a row playing defensive end. But, the letters, end of junior year, early senior year, they were pouring in from all over the country. but nothing substantial, to be honest with you. And then I remember going into my senior year, me and a couple of my buddies from Providence Catholic, whose older brothers were already at Iowa, we chose to go to the summer football camp. And I think that's where maybe, I caught the attention of, Bielema or whoever was recruiting in the in the Chicagoland area at the time. And that's when they started recruiting me. And then other Big Ten schools. But to be honest with you, the only two offers, and I'll get to what sold me, but Boston College was the only other school to offer me a scholarship, but I never went on an official visit there because right when we won state my senior year, Hayden Fry and Brett Bielema came to the high school to meet me in the AD's office. And, given Hayden's charisma and personality, as soon as I walked in the room, we just would won state a week prior or something. And I go to shake his hand, but he gives me a big old hug, and then we sit down and talk football and school and all that stuff. And from right there, right when I met him, and they were like, sure, you can come and play tight end or defensive end and what have you. I was like, okay, that's the spot. And it was, again, back to the whole friends and family. I had about 5-6 guys from Providence already there. A few of them were 2 years older. My best friend was going there. My parent, we were close. We're under 3 hours from University of Iowa. So when you mix all that stuff together, it was a no-brainer for me.
Eric Steinbach finished his pro career consistently ranked as one of the top offensive linemen in the NFL. Draft projections, he says, are one observer's opinion. Only the player knows what lies deep within. All the best to the Hawkeyes, now future pros, this weekend. I'm Gary Dolphin. Tune in again next week for another edition of the Fight for Iowa podcast. Go Hawks.
You've been listening to the Fight for Iowa podcast. Hawkeye fans, remember to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. Once you become a Fight for Iowa podcast subscriber, you'll automatically receive the latest episodes of the Fight for Iowa podcast, the Hawkeyes Voice podcast, Hawk Talk replays, exclusive game day content, and more. Until next time, on Iowa and go Hawks! The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Hawkeye Sports Network.